warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. We are from group Sherlock, which consists of 4 members. First is me, Siti Rabi'atul Adawiyah. Second is Siti Maisarah, followed by Luqman Hakim and also Ahmad Hazmi. In this video, our group will discuss about the companies that we choose to be part of our group project, which is Petronas. Petronas, or Petroleum Nasional Berhad, is a Malaysian fully integrated oil and gas company. Established in 1974, Petronas has a worldwide presence in more than 65 countries and operates among the top oil and gas companies in the world. And among the subsidiaries of Petronas are the Petroleum Carigali Turkmenistan, or PCD. And basically, PCD was founded around 1996 after Petronas was awarded with the Block 1 waters in Turkmenistan. And in July 1996, the government of Turkmenistan signed a 25 years production sharing agreement for the exploration, development and the production of the offshore Block 1. And by 2002, Petronas has successfully drilled and tested 4 wells indicating vast oil and gas reserve at a high rate of flow. Referring to the image in the slides, that is Mr. Mohamad Dali bin Mohamad Saudari, who is the manager of the Maintenance Excellence Department for equipment used by the Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan in finding oil and gas in Turkmenistan waters. Mr. Dali actually has been working with Petronas for 15 years, starting from 2008 until now. And after 6 years of working as a manager of Safety and Quality Assurance Department in Malaysia, he was transferred to the Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan in 2009. And now, he has 96 employees under his supervision, consisting mainly of Malaysian employees, Russian and Turkmenistan. Moving on to the major sustainability issue, the major sustainability issue that we identify is related to the excess carbon produced from the oil mining operation that was flared to prevent the risk of explosion. But this action has actually led to the high carbon emission that leads to the global warming and the climate change. And therefore, in achieving to the target of net zero emission in 2015, reducing carbon in our atmosphere is crucial to ensure a sustainable future and the environment still intact. And now, let's refer to the balanced scorecard. After analyzing the problem, we decided to choose a balanced scorecard as an accounting technique to examine the company's management effort to implement SDG 13 while maintaining its financial performance. And based on the balanced scorecard, we have 4 aspects to focus on. In terms of financial perspective, for the Turkmenistan project operation, although the company has signed a 25 years production sharing agreement, the project funding is signed or approved weekly based on the operation activity of the week. And as an initiative to improve the financial flow, the department should implement budgetary control as it promotes an effective technique of controlling costs and eliminating waste. And apart from that, it also promotes economy and efficiency with regard to the production activities of the company. In terms of customer perspective, in order to maintain the company ranking, Petronas should aim to gain a new client apart from focusing on the customer retention and growth. And this can be done through promoting a green service that supports the target of achieving net zero emission in 2050. With that, the potential customer or investor will attract. In terms of the internal process, to satisfy the shareholder and the customer needs, Petronas should aim to reduce the waste and avoid gas flaring, which can be done through improving the operationalized activity. So, Petronas should invest in research and development in carbon capture through strategize the utilization and the storage of the waste in order to avoid the flaring. And Petronas also can invest to find an option other than flaring so that the company will see as a company that promotes the green environment and also supporting the SDG aspect. Lastly, in terms of education and growth, to promote the awareness on the climate change, Petronas need to provide strategic information to all its employees and to ensure the employee is able to develop critical skill and specialist knowledge in managing the operation. Team training is needed in equipping the employee with such knowledge. And through training also, the company can align the employee goals with the company goals to ensure the company is moving forward toward the industry. Next is about the sustainability aspect that the company has adopted into their operation. Basically, Petronas has implemented few of Sustainable Development Goal or SDG as suggested by the United Nations in their daily operation. And among them are SDG 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 12 and 13. Specific Sustainable Development Goal that we use to address the issue is SDG 13, which urge the company to take urgent action to combat the climate change and its impact toward the environment. And this SDG is closely related to the PCT issue because the process of flaring excess gas will cause excess carbon to be released to the atmosphere, hence causing rising temperature and the climate change. Apart from that, Petronas also has its own sustainability lenses, focuses on four aspects, which are to continue value creation, to safeguard the environment, to give positive impact and responsible governance. Each of the sustainability lenses have its own objective that the company want to achieve. And although it's only focused on the four aspects, the lenses actually has focuses on the crucial part in maintaining the company performance, such as the financial aspect, climate adaptation, health and safety, and also compliance and oversight. With all the SDG implemented by the company, we think that what has been implemented is actually good for the performance of the company.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Ahmad Hazmi, and now I will be talking about actions that has been taken by Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan in order to reduce waste from company's operations. So there are two notable ways brought up by Mr. Dali during the interview session. The first one is damaging process of desalination of crude oil, and the second one is carbon emission due to gas flaring. For the process of desalting the seawater, it is required to extract salt from the crude oil that were pumped below the sea. Mr. Dali describes the crude oil to be extremely waxy and is able to stick to the wall if we throw it off, and the process to remove salt from the oil is very damaging for the machines in their operations. This solution for this issue is yet to be found, but Petronas has performed joint venture with Schlumberger US to develop research in solving or reducing damages caused by the process. However, the desalination process has less impact towards the environment, unlike the second waste issue involving carbon emission caused by the gas flaring. So, why does the gas need to be flared? Well, based on our understanding from the interview, unused gas during the production will be flared in order to prevent the risk of explosion when the gas is vented. The continuous flaring causes a serious environmental issues such as carbon emission and pollution to local air and noise. Currently, what the company has done is to set up a key performance indicator or limit for the gas production so they could reduce the amount of unused gas needed to be flared. However, we think that this action could be improved by the help of technology innovation in renewable energy sources.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Maisarah and I will be presenting on the actions that has been taken by Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan, the analysis on SWOT and PESTEL. In arriving to the sustainable alternative that we think that Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan could do to address the issues with carbon emission due to oil and gas operation in Turkmenistan, we have developed a SWOT matrix analysis using the information gathered during the interview session and some online discoveries. As Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan is just one of the branches for Petronas, therefore our elements of SWOT, which are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, are limited and generally revolve around the Petronas as the brand itself. Therefore, we also take into account other information like the news related to Turkmenistan government policies with regards to their sustainability agendas. Firstly, for the strength, Petronas has an integrated nature of business where it has engaged in a broad spectrum of petroleum activities, focusing on both upstream and downstream activities. This involves its main operation of exploration and production (EMP) in oil and gas, to the downstream development of oil refining, marketing of liquefied natural gas, petrochemical, distribution of petroleum products, e-commerce, property investment and more. This expansion has enabled Petronas to build a strong free cash flows through various revenue streams while diversifying the economic cycle risk in the markets that they operate in. On top of that, the company also has a global brand portfolio to over 65 countries all over the world through strategic alliance, mergers and acquisition, and so on. Petronas Global Business has successfully ranked the company as a 14th global 50th biggest corporation in the world. Lastly, Petronas' worldwide branding is also properly maintained, and Petronas was known to have strong customer relationship with the local communities. As for Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan itself, the workmanship includes employment of local communities as contractors or public relation officers. Besides that, Petronas also has some notable weaknesses. Firstly is the cost of environmental hazards or costs incurred due to the environmental issues caused by the operations. The company pays a large amount of funds for penalties every year despite the safety and environmental measures imposed by the company in their operations. Furthermore, having a strong cash flows every year and claims to invest in technology research and development, the company is yet to be able to compete with the leading players of the industry in terms of innovation. As in 2021, Petronas has yet to finalize their roadmap to energy transition. Finally, as Petronas is a state-owned company, it is bound to follow the Malaysian government regulations. Therefore, without the Malaysian government proactive action and support towards the sustainability regulations and investment in technologies to develop the renewable energy sources, Petronas would not be able to reduce the gap in green technologies innovation with the oil and gas industry's competition. Despite that, there is also some hope and motivation for Petronas to continue indulging in sustainable alternatives. This includes the increase in public demands for sustainable practice in companies' operations. The public has raised their awareness over the environmental impact caused by many industrial activities, especially logging, open burning, and even carbon emission from the car fuel. So, on top of that, Malaysian government has also provided the Green Investment Tax Allowance as part of Budget 2022 measures. This initiative is highly beneficial for Petronas to prioritize their focus in developing technologies for renewable energy sources so that the company could achieve their sustainable development mission and leads the company towards the net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Last but not least is the threat. The first threat is intense competition among all the companies in the oil and gas industry. While the industry is highly depends on the oil price in the market, they are also very competitive in terms of technology and advancement. Petronas should move ahead of the competitors to invest in the research for technology innovation, especially with regards to the development of renewable energy sources. Lastly, government stringent regulations where Petronas Turkmenistan is not just bound to follow the Malaysian's regulations but also US as the heading oil and gas country and Turkmenistan as the host country for Petronas Turkmenistan itself. Petronas faces many challenges due to the nature of its business operating in local and foreign waters and the utilization of millions of government funds for its operation. Due to this, we think that it is appropriate that we use pastel analysis on Petronas Carigali Turkmenistan Sdn Bhd as we could get to see the possible risks that the company might be affected with. So the first one is in terms of political threats, Petronas also needs to be aware of any social unrest in the countries that they are operating in. This is to prevent another takeover of their assets like what happened in Sudan. As most of the oil reserves in this world are located in the Middle East, there are often cases of civil wars and coups happening in that area. Therefore, in order to operate in those areas, Petronas needs to be vigilant of their environment to safeguard their assets. In terms of economics, Petronas needs to take into consideration the environmental impacts of their operations to avoid the actions taken from causing more loss for the organisation as a whole. Petronas also needs to consider the regulations and the price of oil set by OPEC since Malaysia is also a member of OPEC. Taking these two factors into consideration, Petronas needs to include these factors in their decision making to ensure the profitability of Petronas operations. In terms of social, Petronas needs to consider the change in the market for increasing demand in sustainable practices by investors and consumers alike. Petronas also need to maintain their community engagement in order to project themselves as a company that is caring towards the community. Next, In terms of technology, oil detection and drilling has become more efficient and cost-effective. Oil companies now have access to technologies that could In terms of technology, oil detection and drilling has become more efficient and cost-effective. Oil companies now have access to technologies that could aid them in finding oil wells. This technology includes satellites, drones, advanced sensors, and many more. Petronas also need to be vigilant of any innovations related to renewable energy in order to not be left in the dust. In terms of environment, Petronas need to consider the environmental impacts of their operations. As we all know, the oil and gas industry produces greenhouse gases that are harmful to the environment as it makes our world hotter. Petronas needs to set a benchmark on how much gases that they are allowed to burn in a day to prevent an environmental catastrophe. They also need to join initiative mission by 2050 in order to push themselves towards a more sustainable future. And lastly, in terms of legal, Petronas needs to be aware of any changes in regulations from the Turkmenistan government to ensure that they will not breach any laws. Petronas needs to form a close relationship with the government of Turkmenistan to ensure a stable and good relationship to enable an efficient implementation of their laws. Petronas also need to be aware of any regulatory changes happening at home in Malaysia, since the company is owned by the government.
In order to arrive at a good alternative, we have made four criteria, which are environmentally friendly, technology efficient, ease of implementation, and cost reduction. Why our first criteria is being environmentally friendly is because this is important as it aligns with the company of aiming to become a sustainable company. It also aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to ensure a sustainable society. Oil mining is causing environmental damage, global warming, and climate change. Hence, we have set being environmentally friendly as the heaviest criteria at 40%. Our second criteria is technology innovation. Technology innovation is important in order to make society move away from oil. Technology allows us to find an alternative to oil without sacrificing our use case. That's why we have set technology innovation at 30%. Our third alternative is ease of implementation. The alternative that we suggested must be easy to implement, as to not increase the cost much higher and allows easy integration with the existing system. You only want to replace the oil part of our energy generation, not the whole system. That is why we have set it at 20%. Our fourth criteria is cost reduction. The main issue here is being environmentally friendly, not to reduce costs. However, cost must also be taken into consideration in order to convince the investors of our idea. Our alternatives must be able to ensure that cost is reasonable and fair. Because it is not our main aim to reduce costs, we have set it at 10%. So for our first alternative, we have suggest Petronas to build solar photovoltaic plants in Turkmenistan. So for solar photovoltaic is basically solar panels that can be used to generate electricity. The solar panels can be used to supply power to the whole Turkmenistan if it is being utilized properly by Petronas. We think Petronas should consider photovoltaic panels in Turkmenistan because the weather in Turkmenistan is very warm in the summer from May to September. During the summer, it can get very hot and the country is dominated by the Karakum Desert, which covered 70% of Turkmenistan. Also, Turkmenistan gets very little rainfall at only 70 to 150 millimeter of rainfall per year. This can be a fantastic opportunity for Petronas to install solar panels, as it able to utilize the hot weather. Also, Turkmenistan has a very vast desert, which is the Karakum Desert, which is 350,000 kilometers square, which is more than enough for Petronas to install large amounts of solar panels around the desert. Second reason why Petronas should install solar panels is because it produces clean and green energy. There is no emission produced from solar panels, unlike oil, which produce greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide. Also, it is because Turkmenistan has a lot of sunshine throughout the year. Lastly, solar panels play a vital role in smart energy networks that rely on distributed power generation, also known as DPG. So DPGs are environmentally friendly since they assist to minimize electricity generation at centralized power plants. They also mitigate the environment implication of centralized generation system and realize and utilize the sun's energy to create power and generate electricity. Furthermore, DPGs also help in the process of possible reduction of energy during distribution of electricity in the electrical network.
Our second alternative is the joint venture between Petronas and other companies for the development of other types of renewable energies. So currently in the market, there is a hot debate between blue and green hydrogen. Well, blue hydrogen comes from the processing of natural gas into hydrogen, while green hydrogen is hydrogen generated exclusively from the use of green technologies. Now currently, an energy company from Russia is called Gazprom. It is actively promoting a global hydrogen race in which they are utilizing hydrogen production in the most environmentally friendly and cost-efficient way. We think that Petronas should bank in on hydrogen, as more governments around the world are aiming for the net zero carbon by 2050, and this can be seen by incentives given by the government to further accelerate this change towards hydrogen energy. So Petronas should jump in because one of the firms is growing towards the use of hydrogen. Another reason why Petronas should bank in on hydrogen is because it does not emit any emission unlike fossil fuels. The only byproduct of hydrogen fuel is water, and this is because the hydrogen reacts with oxygen in the air and it produces H2O in the water. And lastly, it is attractive because it is not threatened by fluctuating prices unlike oil. So currently, the price of hydrogen is stable as there is not much demand yet. However, Petronas needs to keep an eye on emerging competitors as more and more people are realizing that potential of hydrogen. After discussion, we chose alternative 2 because it is environmentally friendly and it aligns well with the mission of Petronas to be a sustainable company, while at the same time being able to produce a product that is compared to fossil fuels but much cleaner, so that hydrogen could be a competitor to fossil fuels. And this is because it stores a lot of energy and refueling does not need as much time required as battery powered cars. And the only byproduct of hydrogen is water, and this happens as hydrogen is used, it reacts with oxygen and the air, creating water vapor just like the chemical reaction H2O. And then the alternative aligns with our criteria being environmentally friendly and aligns with the aim of Petronas being a sustainable company. The second criteria is technology innovation. Hydrogen technology is one of the best innovations as it provides the same amount of energy and a bit more while also being environmentally friendly. It fulfills our criteria as it helps us move away from fossil fuels entirely in the future. And then the third criteria is ease of implementation. Hydrogen can be refueled just like normal gasoline, and it does not require long hours of waiting to be refueled. And the hydrogen is also easily transferred from one location to another as it can be transported in vast amount at one time. And using the method of liquefied natural gas where hydrogen is condensed until it is liquefied to store in tanks. And the final criteria is cost reduction. Because hydrogen can store a lot of energy, this makes the mileage to be quite competitive to batteries and petrol. Therefore, the potential is big, especially in the automotive industry. And then it is supplemented with the fact that it could be transported in the large amount at one time. However, hydrogen production, especially green hydrogen, is quite expensive. Further research is needed in order to bring the cost down throughout the production line. In order for Petronas to implement this alternative successfully, there are certain steps that Petronas must take. And first of all, it is for the immediate time, Petronas should propose a joint venture agreement with Gazprom to work together for hydrogen fuel production. This is to ensure that Petronas is not left behind in the race for hydrogen. Since Gazprom is one of the promoters of the global hydrogen race, it will be wise to partner up with them. After a few years after we have joined venture with Gazprom, hydrogen will start to get mature and ready for general public. So, if they want to introduce to public, Petronas could introduce alongside its petrol pumps, allowing Petronas to offer both petrol and hydrogen. This will make the public aware of the hydrogen technology and allow car makers to make vehicles to take advantage of hydrogen. And finally, after the joint venture agreement is done and the public is comfortable with hydrogen technology, Petronas could slowly phase out its petrol pumps, together with offering only hydrogen as their main refueling stations. This will minimize costs as Petronas does not have to provide different types of fuels for different vehicles. Instead, they just use one hydrogen pumps for all vehicles. Based on Mr. Dali's evaluation on our alternatives and suggestion for improvements, Petronas Turkmenistan is just the operator and not in charge with any regulatory and decision making for the company as a whole. The branch is only in charge to fulfill requirements set by Turkmenistan's government, and therefore any changes, for example, the transition to renewable energy technologies, is depending on headquarters decision. He also added that he is not aware of Gazprom NEF as he does not involve directly with the regulation decision, as his expertise is limited to the maintenance operations only. Despite that, he agreed that our suggestion idea is good and could help to reduce carbon emission issues that is occurred in their operation, as investing in the development of green technology of hydrogen as renewable energy sources is a worthy alternative. As we dive deeper into the Petronas operations, we notice that Petronas has done a tremendous effort on pushing the Sustainable Development Goals (SDG) within their organization. Some of them include SDG 3, SDG 4, SDG 7, SDG 8, SDG 9, SDG 12 and SDG 13. So it is safe to say that Petronas has strengthened their commitment to sustainability and they are going towards a better future. With the emergence of blue and green hydrogen, this can further elevate Petronas in moving towards the new era where great emphasis are being highlighted in clean energy. That is all from us. Thank you.